Welcome to my Growth Mentor presentation on stop wasting your time, how to focus on what really matters in your startup. I'm going to get right into it. Before we start, a little bit about myself. My name is David Hensel. I've been an entrepreneur for over 20 years. My last big exit was MaxCDN, the content delivery network, and currently I run a portfolio of businesses. One is TaskDrive, we do lead research. LTV Plus does live chat agents for e-commerce brands. Wonder is an e-commerce business in Poland. Shortlist is outsourced marketing and backlink building. 50 SaaS, a software house, and we release lots of SaaS applications, Referral Magic being one of them. And my passion is organizational development and leadership development. And this is what I'm basically doing with all these companies. Help the leaders to grow and to focus on the stuff that really matters. I figured this out in my career that it makes all the difference if you focus on the right things versus not focusing at all. Good analogy for this is this looking glass here. If you use this looking glass and you let the sun shine through, you all know this, here you can burn a hole into the table. But if you move the glass just a little bit left to right, you won't even warm up the surface. So it's really about having a real focus. And one trap that a lot of entrepreneurs fall in easily, me included, is shiny object syndrome. And there's so many opportunities, so many things that you can do, but if you fall into the trap of shiny object syndrome, you'll be all over the place and not focusing on what matters, which will result in being overwhelmed and stressed. Nothing will get done. We all have been there, starting a bunch of projects and having, they're shelved 90% complete and not really pushed out, and then you just waste a ton of time. So yeah, quick overview on my talk. First, I'll tell you why you need your why and why it is so powerful to have a clear mission, vision statement in your business that is preached to everybody. I've made really big mistakes in my career with this, and have the battle scars and learn from it. This is why I'm so passionate about this, and I want to share this with you today. Then how to focus your business. And the other one is how to focus in your personal life, because it's really important that you're on your A game, that your team is on their A game. And it's more of a holistic thing. You have to see life and business as a, work. It has to be work-life integration. It can't be work-life balance, because otherwise it's always a tug of war. But we'll get into this in a second. First, I want to tell you the MaxCDN story, how we started MaxCDN. MaxCDN, as I said, was a content delivery network, which we started in 2009. And it was called NetDNA. And we just thought, okay, we'll just copy what the big guys are doing, Akamai, Edgecast, etc. Offer a little less features and make it really affordable, and everybody will come and buy. But unfortunately, this was not the case. And numerous problems. CDN is a big trust thing, and we were not funded and really struggled, because also back then the why of our business was just like, hey, we just want to make money. Right? This was like the motivation of doing this business, And if you really ask yourself, why does my startup exist? Why am I doing this here? If the answer is I'm doing this only for the money, then it's going to be really hard, because when you go through the valleys, if you go through the tough times and your motivation is only money, then you will more likely give up. Versus if you see something or do this because you want to have an impact or you want to change something, and everything becomes much easier if you have a strong why. You probably know the Start With Why book or TED Talk by Simon Sinek. I can highly recommend it to check it out. I found that money is just a side effect of providing value. So if you figure out how to provide as much value as possible to as many people as possible, you'll be the richest person around. So always be in this mindset. How can you provide crazy value to people, and money will just come. So with MaxCDN, we did this. We sat down, thought okay, what's our why? Oh, actually, we're still NetDNA back then, and we looked at our market, the CDN market, and back then buying CDN really sucked. It was like an enterprise sale and enterprise play. You had to talk to a sales rep. They want to push you into an annual or 2-year contract. They want to charge you a minimum of $500 a month, and this just was, especially for startups, was just not feasible or smaller businesses to make these types of commitments. So CDN was just there for the enterprise crew. And CDN was also hard to use. It took long to onboard. SSL provisioning with Akamai took a month before you got that. And we thought, okay, let's make CDN, as kind of coming to the next slide, which is our mission, our vision, to make CDN as accessible for everybody and offer easy to use and affordable CDN. You just come to the website, type in your credit card, click a button, CDN's provisioned, you can integrate into your app or website or whatever, and you're up and running in a few minutes. And yeah, this really worked well. There was like crazy demand in the market. We really hit a nerve and we really took off. And this could be then the happy ending story, the happy ending of the story, but unfortunately it was not the case because we fucked up again. And we fucked up by not writing down our mission, vision, values. It was clear in the founders' heads in the early team from back then. It was clear on why we're doing this, but we grew fast. We hired a lot of people, and we didn't tell these people what we're about. We didn't tell these people what did we set out to do. And so we ended up running into 10 different directions. We hired this very talented head of engineering who worked for Splunk before, and he had the idea to build this crazy data analytics engine on top of a CDN, which was really awesome, but only for 5% of our customers. So everybody else was like, what are we doing with this? Or our new head of sales was running after enterprise clients again, even though, we actually really built something for the mid-market for startups. And so the result of this, we ran into 10 different directions and nothing was getting done properly. And yeah, we realized this and sat down and was like, okay, why is this happening? And we realized that this was due to not having our mission, vision, value, especially mission and vision, clearly defined. And we didn't communicate it to our team and also not to the outside world. So when we sold MaxCDN, Lance Crosby, the founder of SoftLayer, he sold SoftLayer for an insane amount to IBM and then wanted to do it again. And he bought us and a few other businesses. And he told me that as a CEO, you only have to do 3 things. You have to make sure the business doesn't run out of money. So you have to fundraise and make sure that money's coming in. You have to hire really good people in the key positions and kind of leave them alone, just manage them by KPIs. And the third thing is you have to preach the mission and the vision of the company like a parrot to the inside, basically to your team and to the outside world. And yeah, I wish I would have known this before. A quote by Confucius, "He who chases 2 rabbits catches none." So very true. Focus, catch 1 rabbit first, put them into, no, I'm vegan. I'm not catching any rabbits. But you get the point, right? Just focus on one thing first, and then you can do the other. So vision, mission, values actually matter. I thought that having like a vision statement, a mission statement, and core values is just like some BS exercise that you need to, you have to put this into a presentation when you want to raise money, but it's actually a really cool management tool for you so you can make decisions on what you want to work on and what's a distraction. Some definitions of So a vision statement it's the North Star of your organization. It defines why your organization exists and where you're headed. And it should be, the desired, beginning with the end in mind, like kind of how should this look in 5 years or 10 years from now, or if you're in it for a long game, like, pick some giant goal. Should be really big, almost impossible to reach, and, should be your decision filter. And one example from Amazon, everybody knows to be the world's most customer-centric company, and they're doing a really kick-ass job at this. Then mission statement is basically how you fulfill that vision. So, why, what, who for, and then, how do you do what you do. Another example from Amazon to complete this, we strive to offer our customers the lowest possible prices and the best available selection at the utmost convenience. What they're definitely doing, and they're completely crushing it, right? Another cool example for how vision, mission, values can be really impactful is a friend of mine founded ring.com, and I talked to his head of engineering, and he said, we talked about vision, mission, values and how to use it in the organization as a decision filter and framework. And he said one of the engineers came to him and said like, hey, we have these floodlights that you put on the side of the house, and since these things have a microphone in there, we could build this really cool thing. We could build like a party mode, and so if you turn on the party mode, the mic will listen to the music that you play, and the lights will flash with the music. And he thought it's like the best thing since sliced bread. And my buddy could have said like, hey, that's a stupid idea, go back to work. And then the guy would have been crushed, and he would maybe make a stupid product decision later down the line. But he told him like, hey, that's a cool idea, but what does this have to do with our vision statement, which is to reduce crime in neighborhoods? And by saying something like this, it gives the engineer or everybody in the organization the tool to make decisions the same way that you would make the decisions. And you basically build a product that's very focused and good for the customer, right? Solving the problem that you want to solve. Another example is Jack Ma. He said in a talk, every day he has like a bunch of ideas, and every day smart people from his organization come to him and say like, hey, we have this idea, we could build this feature, this would make us X dollars and would be really cool. And he says, okay, let me run this through my decision filter, which is his vision statement. just to make it easy to do business anywhere. Is this in line with his vision? Yes, we'll consider it. No, if not, screw off, we're not going to do it. And by doing this, he reduces FOMO a lot, the fear of missing out. And it just everything becomes much easier if you do it like that. I don't know if you heard about emergency, not emergency like help. I know English is a second language, was for me was confusing. That's spelled similarly. If you have strong mission, vision, and values in your organization, as I mentioned before, everybody in your team will make decisions the same way that you would make decisions, and decisions that are good for the organization. In ants, it's really fascinating. I think ants, a colony is basically split between workers, soldiers, caretakers, and gatherers, 25% each. And when ants meet each other, they always run these lines. They have a scent, like a worker smells like a worker, and the caretaker smells like a caretaker. And in case the other ants, if they meet, they register, and if there's they all of a sudden don't meet any gatherers anymore. For example, an ant either came in and just ate a bunch of these gatherers, then the colony may starve, right? But then the others automatically switch into the role of a gatherer. I think that's super fascinating. And so if you really implement vision, mission, values strongly into your organization, that everybody knows them, everybody lives them and breathes them and uses them as decision-making tools, then yeah, I think you're golden with your organization. I had this WTF moment when I read this book here called Traction, Get a Grip on Your Business by Gino Wickman. But there's 2 traction books out there. The other one has nothing to do with what I'm talking about here, so please make sure if you get this book, get this book, and do yourself a favor, read this book. In this book it's called the thing that they teach in there is the Entrepreneurial Operating System, EOS. And all these things that are listed in this book, we kind of figured out during the MaxCDN days, but with a lot of blood, sweat, and tears and a lot of headache. And I wish I would have had this back then, because this would have made our life so much easier, and we probably would have 10x the business, and I would have less gray hair. So yeah, do yourself a favor and read this book. I'm going to show you a few aspects of this book. Actually, that's the complete system here. We have the vision, data, process, traction, issues, and people. Today I want to focus on I already talked about the vision piece. I want to talk about the traction piece, like rocks and meetings, how to have really effective meetings. The data piece a little bit. So in Traction, you create this document which is called the Vision Traction Organizer, and this is from one of my businesses, the VTO. First, we have our core values, then we have our core focus on what we're doing here, our 10-year target, 10,000, having 10,000 employees and providing 10,000 people with a good job, something that is really inspiring for a lot of people in our team. And then our target market, who do we really want to sell to? Who's the best possible customer? Our 3 uniques, the things that really make us stand out from the competition, and these are the things that we really want to communicate in our copy, in our presentations, and kind of everywhere. So yeah, people know what's going on. Then the 3-year picture is really powerful. If you sit down with everybody in the organization, kind of figure out or in the leadership team, figure out how should this look in 3 years from now, and also the 1-year plan, how this should look, and then the rocks are the things that you want to accomplish in the next 90 days. If you do this exercise together, maybe the head of sales is like, oh yeah, we're going to sell X. We onboard 50 new customers in the next three months. And this may be doable from the sales side, but maybe your product team will not be able to support this, so it's really healthy to have this discussion and kind of figure out what do we really want? What do we want to implement to make sure that we basically walk towards our vision and get there fast, right? So I'm going to show you how to come up with the rocks in a second. But yeah, having a document like this I also call this a North Star document, really gives you a very quick overview on where you're headed with your organization, what you're doing, and if you make big decisions, you always come back to this document, kind of run it through this filter to make sure you're in line with what you want to do. That's the template that I used to come up with our 90-day plan, to kind of figure out what do we really want to work on. Also at MaxCDN, we had our own version of this. We would call it company priorities, and we only worked on 3 company priorities at a time, and everybody had to know what these priorities are, and once one had to be completed, so before we can move another one up and start working on this. So the entire company was incentivized to get the stuff done, because then the rocks or the priorities that they wanted to work on we're moving up so they could start working on them. And I really like to set this 90-day plan up like this. So first you have a goal that you want to accomplish. And as you see down here, we have goals in growth and goals in better product. So for growth, I want to get to 1,000 customers, right, by the next within the next quarter. And then we have a bunch of strategies that are supporting this goal. One is partnerships, one is increasing website conversions and whatever. You can have like a bunch of strategies, and then each strategy has a bunch of tactics that are in line with this strategy, right, supporting the goal. And what we do is we have a meeting every quarter, and the department heads come up with, so I set the goals, and then the department heads come up with presentations on how they did last quarter with their rocks, but basically the strategies and the tactics, and they propose new ones. So they come up with the strategies and they come up with the tactics, and then we have a pretty long meeting, a bunch of hours, and then we kind of go through this. They give a presentation, and then we pick the ones that we want to implement, and then it's very transparent who's going to do what by when, and this really aligns everybody that we work on the stuff that's important and not only the urgent stuff, which urgent very easily overrides what's important. And this all ties into having very focused meetings. This is probably for me the biggest takeaway from this book. It's how to run meetings. Everybody hates meetings. A lot of people think they're a big waste of time, but if you run with this formula, I guarantee you're going to have super productive meetings, and it's just going to make all the difference. So they're called level 10 meetings, and they always have the same format. The agenda is set. First, around the room, good news, quick updates, what's going on in mainly work related, but if you don't have anything really good news work related, you can also put in something personal. I personally added gratitude to it because I think it's very important that we're grateful for stuff. When you're, especially in the roller coaster startup world, yay, oh no, yay, oh no, it's important when you see how much stuff is going good in your life. You don't lose track of, you don't get absorbed by the problem that you're currently facing, because you're always facing some problems, startup life. But anyhow, so then the reporting piece. So you go over the KPIs, which I'm not going to get into this right now because otherwise this presentation would be too long. But we have a document where we track the KPIs, the most important stuff, metrics of our business, and people are responsible for each individual KPI has somebody who's responsible for, and they have a target for it. So we just go through this document really quick and see if everything's on track. If something's not on track on the KPI, we don't talk about it, no excuses, no long blah. We just move it here into the IDS section. For example, I had like traffic is down, churn too high, whatever, right? It would be great if I would be able to spell churn. And yeah, then you go through the rocks, as I mentioned before, from the 90-day planning. So the name of the rock, the due date, the name of the person who's responsible, and they color code them, as you can see here. So it's very easy to just like kind of take a glimpse here, see stuff on track. We don't even talk about stuff that's not on track. It's red or orange. You put this here into the IDS section. Customer and employee headlines, pretty self-explanatory. We hired this person, this customer came aboard, this customer has issues, we fired this person, whatever. So kind of to keep the leadership team informed. By the way, this meeting happens once a week. It's a 90-minute meeting. It always happens at the same time. And the only reason not to be at this meeting is you're on vacation or dead. Like, people really have to be there for this meeting. So yeah, then you go through the to-do list. To-dos are always things that have been resulting from the IDS section, identify, discuss, solve, from last week. And ideal is these things should be done by when the next meeting comes along. And once they're done with everything, you just, like when you talked about, you cross it out. So the beauty with this is that often people say like, yeah, I'm gonna do this or that, and then they forget about it. But with this document, it's going to be there next week, so it's very certain that this is going to work. This also works tremendously well with customers if you have a service business, because often you wait for something that the customer has to do, and it's always a little feels weird to remind the customer like, hey, why didn't you do XYZ? But when it's there in the document, it's just like a very different ballgame. Then you run through the IDS section. Ideally, the person who runs the meeting prioritizes what you want to talk about first in case you have lots of items. And then you really drill in, you identify, discuss, and solve the problem. And if somebody talks about something else, you bring it back, like say, hey, tangent alert, we're not talking about this, we want to solve the problem why traffic is down, kind of drill in what's causing this. The beauty of this is, as you saw, I'm involved in lots of businesses, and it's really hard to keep track of everything that's going on, but with this document, it works wonders. So whenever I see something that I want to discuss with somebody, something that I don't like, something that I think could be improved, I just open up this document and add it to the IDS section. And then I can forget about it in the next meeting when it comes up. When I open up the document 5 minutes before, I just read through this, and then boom, everything's on top of my head. This also really helps with, people are, if something like is really going wrong, then of course, I will reach out to the person right away. But most of the time stuff can wait, and then people are not interrupted from what they're currently doing. And you can just kind of talk about this with the entire team to figure out what's going wrong. Oh, by the way, also something that we have in here in the KPIs, something that we do at TaskDrive. It's not part of the EOS thing. It's something that we added. We have a problem tracker document. So whenever somebody messes up, customer complaint, quality issue, whatever, we put these errors in this document, and then we go through the error log and see what happened, who did it, what's the status of it, and so we can talk about this and figure out which process do we have to optimize to make sure this doesn't happen again. And this transparency is also really, really helpful, but I want to keep this talk concise, so I'll move on. So you go through this IDS section. Out of the IDS, task will result, and then you come to the conclusion part. You recap the to-dos to make sure that everybody really knows what they have to do. Then if you have any cascading messages that you have to tell customers, other team members, whatever, resulting from this meeting, while you're in the meeting, you take the notes so you don't forget about this. And then you rate the meeting from 1 to 10. This is also where the name is coming from, level 10 meeting. You go around the room and everybody says like, okay, this meeting was an 8, this meeting was a 7. And if somebody says this meeting was below a 7, then they have to tell you the reason why this is the case. And it's really powerful because, we want to have efficient meetings, and this allows people to call others out on if something's not right. Like this person was late, he didn't fill out the KPIs or whatever. This really helps to have focused, strong, and productive meetings. And this is a living document, so you basically, once you're done with this meeting, you copy this, put it on top, change the date obviously, and just remove the ones that were crossed out. And then, it starts all over again. Once a week, 90 minutes. Doesn't have to go all the way, but you block this time. Same people, no excuses. Works like a charm. Trust me, please try it out. If you want this document, just shoot me an email, dh@davidhensel.com, and I'm happy to share this with you. All right, back to the presentation. This meeting format I'm also doing for one-on-ones, and it's pretty much the same format. The only difference is that I have a check-in here. It's also not from US, something that I added in. Where I asked the people, my direct reports, what makes you happy this week, kind of what's going really well, what drains you, and how do you feel about your performance. And I'm doing this because this lets people think and talk about, what's going wrong, what's going right, because this is the stuff that we want to really drill into the IDS section in the one-on-one, so we can improve this. And just by having this there, it's a really cool coaching tool to drill and figure out what's going on. Highly recommend. It works really well. And also this question here, how do you feel about your performance? allows you to not do annual reviews anymore, because I think annual reviews are complete bullshit. Like, you don't remember everything that was going on over the year. And the feedback has to be more instant to actually have a positive impact and change. And if you still want to do the annual review, then you can kind of like ask them to rate themselves, whatever, 7.5 I think was my performance between 1 and 10 over the last week, and they can talk about it. And then you can just like go back into this document and figure out like how was their performance. And it's like kind of like doing your taxes throughout the year, every month, completing them, versus like doing it at the end of the year. Yeah, works really well. In the IDS section, there's always one. This basically is also the same for the group meetings. The last question is always, is there anything else? To make sure that people don't forget about stuff and actually share what's going on. All right. So now I want to talk about how to focus on the right customers, and share some customer development hacks with you. And the first one is the research hack. A friend of mine who started WP Engine shared this with me, and I think it's absolutely genius. He reached out to the thought leaders in the WordPress space and sent them an email or a LinkedIn message saying like, hey man, I'm building this new WordPress hosting service, and since you're an influencer in the space, I'd love to jump on a call with you. Just name me your hourly rate, and I'll pay it. Just really want to pick your brain on to build something that really matters for people like you. And the cool thing was like he sent this out to I think 90 some people, and over 80 people had a call with him, and none of them charged him. But even if they charge, I think it's totally fine, because you get really deep insights on like what really matters for these people. So you can build a product the way that that it makes sense. Also, this will define your the three uniques of your product. And also has this crazy side effect by since you're talking to all these influencers, if they like it, if they like the product, they like you, they may become customers, they will send you customers, and you just kind of keep them in the loop while you're building this product, and you basically build a bunch of really powerful advocates. So this really, really works. So please do this for your organization. The 3 uniques I just mentioned before, this is the stuff that you should communicate on your website, in your presentation decks, and everybody should be top of mind. And you should also build additional features around these 3 uniques to make them stronger and stronger and stronger to really stand out. And then for your positioning, a really cool hack. I just had a podcast interview with April Dunford, who wrote the book called Obviously Awesome. She's a positioning expert. And what she does is she lets her customers call their customers and ask them, what would you do if we would not be here anymore? What kind of service would you use? This makes you really understand like who is your actual competition. Maybe Excel spreadsheets are your competition, or some competitors that you haven't heard about, because your customers, the ones that are working really well, do not necessarily know the market that well. You are in the industry, you know all your competitors, but they may not know these competitors. By doing this, really figure out who's your competition, and this will allow you to define a really strong positioning in the market. Works really well. Please do yourself a favor and check it out. All right, the last part is how to focus on your personal life, or how to have focus in your personal life. I probably should rename the slide. A few years ago, my wife and I figured out that if you apply business principles to family life, that everything becomes much easier. We created this course called Managing Happiness, where we teach this. And so basically I built like an EOS for my personal life before I knew that EOS exists. And so we basically have this document for us. This is our family North Star, our family core values. This is my mantra, my personal mission, house rules, how we want to communicate, 3-year picture on what I want to accomplish, 1-year plan, and my 90-day plan. And also I created not to do this stuff that I don't want to do. For example, don't check social media before I leave the house. Don't need it after, because otherwise I will not do my morning routine. I won't meditate, blah. I'll just like lay in bed and do email. Don't eat after 9 p.m. Because if I eat after 9 p.m. I get like an energy boost, and then I won't sleep till 2 a.m. and then the next day will be shit. So having a document like this really helps you to focus on what matters. So when I plan my week, I always look at the 90-day plan, make sure I work on the stuff that's in there. So I work on the stuff that's important and not just on the urgent stuff. So I actually kind of move towards the direction on where I want to go. It's really crazy powerful. I'm a big believer that habits determine everything in your life. If you're in shape or overweight, if you're successful or not successful, rich or poor, happy or unhappy, it all boils down to the habits that you cultivate. And also it depends a lot on the focus stuff that you really focus on and you spend your time on. So we started doing group coachings with Managing Happiness, and I started doing this in my organization because I want my team to be A players and to be that they're on their A game, because it's like how you do one thing is how you do everything. If your private life is super organized and you're crushing it there, it's also going to be in work, and also it kind of goes hand in hand. So we developed this group coaching thing where people come together and they create this document for themselves to kind of really figure out what they want out of life, and they figure out the habits that they do this wheel of life exercise. And based on this, we figure out what kind of habits do they have to cultivate in their life to improve these areas of their life. And the cool thing is to do this in a group. You have this crazy peer pressure in a positive sense that helps you to succeed and to stick to your habits. There's like some study that was made on a few groups. One of the groups just thought about the goal, the other one wrote it down, the other one shared it with a friend, and the other one shared a weekly progress report with a friend. And you can see here how vastly different the success rates were. And we built this app where you can track the habits that you want to incorporate in your life. And the cool thing is you see the other members of the group that you're in and see how they're performing. And this group accountability works really like a charm. So if you're interested in this, more than happy to share, or you can check out managinghappiness.com and learn more about this. It's also, and this was the previous version when my wife and I came up with this how to apply business principles to family life. We create this Trello thing. It's also a Trello template that you can just like copy, where there's my to-dos, her to-dos, our family meetings, the down column, improvement stuff that we want to improve about each other, the goals that we set in our family for health, wealth, growth, fun, relationship, and then our foundation, basically our vision, mission, values, our family habits and traditions, how we track our finances, roles and responsibilities in the household, and a bucket list of stuff that we want to accomplish. It had such a crazy impact in my life. So if that's also why I'm so passionate about sharing this, that I built this in the first place to share this with other entrepreneurs today. Have a better life, basically. If you want to learn more, please go to Managing Happiness and check it out. And before I go, I want to share another thing with you in terms of mindset, because I think it's also having a habit. It's also habits, like the right mindset that you're in. And this may sound super hippie and not very businessy, but I'm a big believer that every decision in life you either make out of love or not out of fear. And if you make these decisions out of love, you're on the right path. If you make it out of fear, you're on the wrong path. And I want to tell you a few stories on how I'm using this in my life and my business. So I always knew this deep down inside, that you make decisions out of love or fear. And my yoga teacher said this in the yoga session: every decision in life you make it out of love or out of fear. And this was so profound I almost fell out of my yoga posture. And now I'm incorporating this everywhere. So I used to be very introverted, and even being on a conference call was very unpleasant for me. So Actually, let me start again. We have to cut this part out. Let me talk about something that I'm personally really passionate about. It's my personal mantra. It's a core value in all of my businesses, and it made probably the biggest impact in my life. And this is like being in the right mindset and acting out of love and not out of fear. I'm a firm believer that every decision in life you either make it out of love or out of fear. And if you make it out of love, you're on the right path. If you make it out of fear, you're on the wrong path. And I want to give you a few examples. I used to hate sales with a passion. I always felt like a used car salesman that's shoving something down people's throats and they don't really want it. And so what I realized is that if you sell out of fear, then this is the case. If you sell out of fear, your primary motivation of selling is you want to pay for your mortgage or you want to hit your numbers, etc. But and then it's really hard to sell, especially for a recovering introvert like me. But if you sell out of love, you sell because what you have here is the right fit for this customer. It's going to make this customer's life better. It's going to make him, crush in his business, etc. And then even me as a recovering introvert, I can be even aggressive, like pushy, is like, come on, buy this. It's going to enrich your life. It's going to be really good for you. And the other person will feel this, like where you're coming from, and all of a sudden sales become so much easier. Or public speaking, or like recording this video here, I would have never done this. I used to be even uncomfortable on a conference call. But, because I always made it about me and I made it about fear, giving a presentation, standing up there thinking, do they think I have a weird German accent? Do they think I look weird? Do they think what I have to say is bullshit? Then I'm full of fear and I can't really give a good presentation. But when I act out of love and I'm doing this presentation because I know what I have here can potentially, make the audience's life better or, help them in their business, then I'm not doing it for me. I'm thinking about the other person, then it becomes super easy. Or talking to strangers, networking, or talking to a person next to you on a plane. Before I would have never talked to anybody that I don't really know if I don't have to, but because I thought like, oh, they probably don't want to talk, etc. And now I just think like, oh, there's another human being. Let's see how I can be of value to this person. And it works. It really works like a charm. Other example in business, I asked my assistant to send out a newsletter at MaxCDN. We grew really fast, and the departments didn't know what the other departments were doing, so it was a little chaotic. And I thought like a company-wide newsletter will really help. So I asked her to go to each department head, ask them what they have done last week, what they plan on doing next week, and compile it into a newsletter and send it out on Mondays at 4 p.m. And every time she gave me the draft, there was like a lot of stuff to correct. It was never really good. So I asked her to my office and sat her down and said like, hey, you're doing this task out of fear, not out of love. And she's like, what the heck do you want from me? And I told her that if you would do this out of love, then you would really figure out what these department heads have to say, like even what our CTO has to say, since you're not very technical, but you do your best to understand what what he wants to tell everybody. And you would compile the newsletter in a way that everybody really gets the best information and also enjoys reading it. Then you would do this out of love, but you're doing it out of fear, and the only motivation for you doing it is, David said, that this has to go out at 4 p.m. That's your motivation. And she's like, all right. And it really clicked with her and never had to correct anything. They were always like perfect and got better and better. At the end, we even had a video newsletter. Also, my private life, my wife and I, um, my wife always asked me to do stuff around the house, like home improvement stuff, and it's like really the last thing that I like to do. And I used to do this always out of fear because I didn't want to have conflict with her. And then I did this task out of fear and I hated the process, and the result was also shitty because I was not doing this task, the work with love. And then I had a fight with her afterwards anyway because it was not up to her specs. And realizing this love and fear thing, I still start out of fear, but then I do it with love because I know what I have to say here can improve, will make my wife happy and will make our place nicer. And then I kind of switch to love, and then I enjoy the process way more, and the result is also much better. So yeah, just want to share this with you because this mindset shift had the really biggest impact in my life, and life got so much better for me and for a lot of people that I've shared this with. So guys, I hope this was useful for you. If you have any questions, thoughts, you can always reach me on this email here or on Facebook, LinkedIn, or whatever works for you. And yeah, if you want the slides or if you want the links to the templates that I shared, please hit me up. All right, take care.